Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It feels like it's been 10 years since I've done a review, so I apologize and thank you for staying with me. Today I want to talk about the new movie, Fast X. There is a gigantic thunderstorm happening in the background, so if you hear some things, it's not me. Fast X is the 10th installment in the Fast and Furious franchise, and while I didn't have much hope for this one after the 9th one and how ridiculous it was, I still wanted to check it out. The synopsis is as follows. Over many missions and against impossible odds, Dom Toretto and his family have outsmarted and outdriven every foe in their path. Now they must confront the most lethal opponent they've ever faced. Fueled by revenge, a terrifying threat emerges from the shadows of the past to shatter Dom's world and destroy everything and everyone he loves. So without further ado, let's get into the 6 things that make a movie great. 1. The plot. During the heist that happened 10 years ago where Reyes ended up getting killed, apparently his son, played by Jason Momoa, was in the picture and got yeeted off of the bridge into the water, but survived. I'm in a glass case of emotion! Now he's made it his mission to target Dom and his family and get revenge for the death of his father. I really enjoyed the way that this movie opened because it did a flashback, and instead of seeing things from Dom and his family's perspective, we got to see it from Dante's perspective. And I thought that was actually strangely effective. But that's where my enjoyment of this plot kind of stopped. My light just went out. Dom ends up wanting to stay home and be more of a family man, while Roman catches wind of a mission from the CIA that he takes his team to, but then all hell breaks loose. They find out about Dante, who blows up everything in the middle of it, and proceeds to try to take down Dom and the rest of his family for the rest of the movie. This movie had a lot of issues, and I think that one of them was major pacing issues, bouncing between 7 different places over the span of 20 minutes, and just kind of being this convoluted mess. And by the end of the movie, what you end up getting from this story is not rewarding at all. So while this plot started strong, it lost its way pretty early on after that. So for me, plot gets a 50-50. 2 is family friendliness. Fast X is rated PG-13, and it's full of mild profanity, lots of action and violence, and some blood with a multitude of implied deaths. There's some sensuality when you get into the car scene as well, but pretty much everything I said is what makes the Fast and Furious movies what they are. So while it's nothing new and they didn't go over the edge on anything, it's also not very family friendly. So family friendliness gets a thumbs down. 3 is acting and script. Oh, baby. Okay, there were 2 performances in this movie that I actually liked. One was from Han, played by Sung Kang, and the other was Cypher, played by Charlize Theron. Everybody else's acting performances in this movie were mid to terrible. But even the characters that I normally find myself enjoying, I didn't enjoy at all. And Brie Larson, okay, there's no other way to disguise it. That just straight up is very bad acting, which you think wouldn't be out of place in a movie like this, but I still just kind of sunk into my seat and was like, oh my gosh, that made it to the theaters. And in addition to that, the script of this movie was one of the worst that I've seen in these films. This movie tried so hard to be funny, and it just wasn't. It was full of cheesy lines, it was full of empty banter that wasn't even humorous in the least, and it was a huge letdown. Not to mention the fact that even though Dom's family has had a history of praying before their barbecues, apparently they don't anymore. Don't think I didn't notice that. So with all that being said, for me, acting and script get a thumbs down. 4 is character development. Nobody in this movie was developed really except for the antagonist, Dante Reyes. And really his development is just his backstory, but then what you see on screen after that is just weird. He goes from being this calm, collected person in the flashbacks to being this unhinged, Joker-like character who says and does all of these very weird, strange, inexplicable things while trying to take down Dom's team. And my brain honestly couldn't decide if it was genius or if it was just super cringy. I guess for me there was no explanation as to why he was as unhinged and crazy as he is. But it was something new, and I would have liked to see more development with new characters like Ames and Tess, but there just wasn't any. So for me, character development gets a thumbs down. 5 is visuals and CGI. The action and racing sequences in this movie are fun, but they're not the best. There's some pretty cheesy and lacking CGI, but the action and racing sequences are kind of why you go to see these movies, with slim to no hope that there's actually a solid storyline there. So if nothing else from this movie, I enjoyed the action sequences. So for me, visuals and CGI, I get a thumbs up. And 6 is rewatchability. Fast X is 2 hours and 21 minutes long, but because of how choppy this movie is, the pacing issues, and all the bouncing all over with a plot that was there but just didn't seem very driven, it made this movie feel obnoxiously long. It's also kind of demoralizing knowing that this could potentially be the first in a trilogy of Fast and Furious movies, when it seems like this movie really just spun its wheels for 2.5 hours. For the sake of going back and watching through the Fast and Furious franchise, I would say that I would watch this movie again. But if you're picking your favorite Fast and Furious movies to watch and just enjoy, this for me is not one of them. So for me, rewatchability gets a 50-50. With all these areas considered, I have to give Fast X a 5 out of 10. This movie had some decent action sequences and the bare bones of what could have been a decent plot. But the story was extremely choppy, there was a multitude of pacing issues, and the acting and script in this movie are arguably the worst that I've seen in the entire franchise. This isn't the worst Fast and Furious movie that I've seen, but it's pretty close. So with all those areas considered, if you're a die-hard fan of the Fast and Furious movies, you probably want to go see this in theaters. But if you're just a casual viewer, I'd probably just wait till it gets released on HBO Max. Max. Thank you so much for watching. If you've seen Fast X, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. As always, I appreciate your love and support, and I'll catch you guys and gals in the next one.